afternoon, I'm Shawn Yao, and this is One News Now. As city buses return to Metro Manila's major roads today, the LTFRB is looking at the possible reopening of provincial bus routes very soon. JC Cosico joins us live from Mandaluyong to tell us more. JC, how's the discussion going on the reopening of provincial bus routes so far?
Shawn, the LTFRB says they are in talks with some LGUs and some bus terminal operators regarding the possible reopening of provincial bus routes. But the proposal is getting a thumbs down from some provincial officials.
The LTFRB disclosed that they are preparing for the possible reopening of provincial bus routes. But as early as now, some elected officials are already against this proposal. Case in point, LGUs in Central Luzon want to keep their borders closed.
We already had a meeting with the umbrella organization of the locally elected officials kung saan nagsabi sila na a large majority of the provinces are still not willing to open up their borders.
In the meantime, city buses and train lines are now up and running again as Metro Manila and the provinces of Laguna, Rizal, Bulacan, and Cavite shift back to general community quarantine. To date, the LTFRB has authorized over 3,000 public utility bus units to ply 31 routes in NCR and nearby provinces. The agency has also added more routes for UV Express and traditional jeepneys.
LTFRB is committed to continue to plan for more routes to be open in the coming days, if not weeks. At the end of the week, we will be able to announce also another set of routes to be open.
Meanwhile, 18 train sets were dispatched in the MRT3 today. Regular disinfection is being conducted to avoid the spread of COVID-19. MRT employees wore PPEs and underwent COVID-19 testing before returning to work. Recall that MRT3 operations were halted last month amid rising number of infections among its employees.
Sa ngayon po, manageable na po ang ating COVID monitoring. No? Marami na po ang naka-recover. Actually, sa MRT3 personnel po, 10 ang naka-monitor na lang po sa atin na awaiting reswabbing para po makabalik na sila sa trabaho. While yung ating pong mga subcontractor ay mga around 60 plus na lang po ang minomonitor namin.
Apart from the regular thermal scanning and signing of health declaration forms, commuters are now also required to wear face shields as earlier ordered by the Transportation Department.
Okay po siya, maganda. Yun nga lang po, mainit pagka mainit and then nagmo-moist. Pero sa kaligtasan, okay po siya. Tiis-tiis lang po.
Shawn, the DOTR says they will strengthen their information campaign on this to remind commuters about the strict protocols implemented in PUVs. Back to you.
Right, thank you for that update, JC Cosico, joining us from Mandaluyong. And Metro Manila is back to more relaxed quarantine status, but even so, health protocols for public transportation have become more stringent. Jenny Dongan with the story.
Jeepneys are once again back on the road with Metro Manila and nearby provinces back in general community quarantine. However, some drivers are not yet allowed to operate despite the LTFRB authorizing 2,200 units in 34 new routes today. Along Rizal Avenue, traditional jeepney drivers plying the Baclaran Divisoria and Baclaran Monumento routes are still awaiting their fate. Since March, Delfin Cantado and his fellow drivers were unable to work. He said nearly half of their group have decided to return to the provinces due to the lack of income.
Ano lang, mga bigay-bigay ng barangay tsaka yung mga bigay-bigay dito na mga ayuda. Yung mga sa nakikita dito ng mga kotse, binibigyan kami.
Personnel from the PNP Highway Patrol Group conducted a mobile checkpoint along Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City this morning. Some bus drivers were apprehended and issued citation tickets for violating health protocols. Aside from face masks, face shields are now also required in public transportation.
Tinitingnan natin kung sumusunod sila sa mga health protocols katulad ng pagsusuot ng face mask at yung face shield.
Passengers with no face shields were ordered to alight. Some tried to make excuses.
Alam po na sa bag ko kasi nakalimutan, mamadali kasi ako eh. Kasi kailangan ng pamilya ko ng pera eh.
The Highway Patrol Group also inspected motorcycle riders. Barriers will no longer required for riding in tandem who are living under the same roof. But the policy still applies to motorcycle riders and back riders with separate residences.
Sinabihan lang namin sila na pwede nang walang barrier as long na magkasama sila sa isang bahay. Pwede magkapatid o mag-ama, pwede na sila kahit walang barrier. Basta yung bahay nila isa lang yung address nila.
Motorcycle back riders will need to present a document or ID indicating their shared address. Mobile and surprise checkpoints will continue, particularly on major thoroughfares in Metro Manila, to ensure that IATF guidelines are being implemented and followed. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
Close to 5,000 additional COVID-19 cases were reported today by the Department of Health. 3,000 of these fresh cases came from Metro Manila, although 90% of them are considered mild. There are now more than 57,000 active cases, while the total infections have hit 173,000. More than 100 persons died from the virus as of today, according to the DOH. The death toll stands at 2,795. A bit of good news, though. The department tallied 716 more survivors. Total recoveries are now at more than 100,000. We'll be back with more stories after this quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News. I'm Sean Yao. Senate has started its probe into the shooting incident between soldiers and police officers in Sulu that killed 4 Army intelligence officers back in June. We have Mean Los Baños reporting to us live from Mandaluyong to tell us more about this. Mean, what happened today at the hearing?
Yes, Sean, the 9 policemen involved in the death of 4 soldiers in Jolo, Sulu last June faced the Senate Committee on Public Order today. But the testimony of the cops contradicts that of the report of the NBI. 2 versions of the story on what transpired last June 29 were unveiled in today's Senate hearing. Based on the NBI's investigation, when the 4 soldiers aboard a Gray Montero Sport passed by the checkpoint on their way to Patigul, Sulu, the police already called their attention. The soldiers were assigned then to do a surveillance operation on 2 suspected suicide bombers. Witnesses said the police were shouting and forced the army members to get out of the car.
The members of the Philippine National Police were allegedly rushing them up already, pointing their long firearms at them, even shouting, "Baba, baba kayong lahat dyan." One of the witnesses even said that nakita niya pa na nakasurround itong mga members ng Philippine National Police at narinig po niya na sinabi po ng Major Indamog at ni Corporal Asula na tropa.
The team led by Police Senior Master Sergeant Abdelzimar Pajiri said he was the one who approached the Montero and asked the passengers to come to the police station.
At pwede rin po sila sumakay kayo sa white car namin kung pwede. Sabi nga, ba't kami sasakay sa sakyan? May sakyan kami.
The soldiers aboard the SUV heeded the advice of the Jolo Police, but instead of parking in front of the Jolo Police Station, they went straight in front of the Bureau of Fire Protection. Major Indamog alighted from the SUV while 4 policemen also disembarked from the patrol cars and pointed their firearms at Indamog.
Si Major Indamog naman po at the time ay tinaas po ang kanyang dalawang kamay at sabi po ng ating witnesses ay tinaas din po ang kanyang t-shirt of the impression na pinapakita na wala namang nakapak or anything na sa kanyang bewang na siguro po weapon.
But the police team leader Pajiri had a different version of the story. He said he approached the Montero and knocked on the window of the front seat, finding Indamog holding an M4 firearm when he went down from the vehicle. However, the NBI insists Indamog was not carrying any firearm.
Our witnesses were very consistent with their statement that the first shots were fired toward the interior of the Montero Sport, Your Honor. Precisely why Major Indamog turned to his left to check on what happened, but then he was also fired shots upon.
The Jolo police also denied allegations that they planted evidence such as firearms that were seen at the crime scene. The NBI already recommended the filing of 4 counts of murder and 1 count of planting of evidence against the 9 policemen.
Sean, PNP Chief Archie Gamboa said he's willing to turn over his men once the warrants of arrest are issued by the court. Sean?
Thanks for that update, Nan Los Baños, joining us from Mandaluyong today. And after 3 days of Senate hearings on the PhilHealth irregularities, Senate President Tito Soto is now putting all of this to an end. Soto says he will be leaving the matter to the hands of the Department of Justice to take proper action. He added that the Senate is tired of hearing the organization's, quote, carousel of denials and lies. Meanwhile, the Office of the Ombudsman has issued an order for the suspension of 13 PhilHealth officials due to alleged involvement in the anomalies within the agency. They are facing 6-month suspensions for grave misconduct, oppression, and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service. All right, time for some sports action. The Portland Trail Blazers stunned and drew first blood against top-seeded Los Angeles Lakers in their playoffs today, 100-93. Damian Lillard was too hot to handle as he took over the final 6 minutes of the game and gave the Blazers their 5th straight victory. Lillard registered 34 points, spoiling LeBron James' first playoff appearance for the Lakers. Meanwhile, LeBron's former team, the Miami Heat, scored a 113-101 victory versus the Indiana Pacers. Jimmy Butler gave the Heat its early series edge with a game-high 28-point performance. And the Houston Rockets, without Russell Westbrook, turned out to be just fine as they outplayed the Oklahoma City Thunder 123-108. James Harden led the Rockets to a 1-0 lead with 37 points. And the Orlando Magic pulled an upset against the Milwaukee Bucks 122-110. The Bucks struggled to snatch Game 1 off the playoffs as Magic center Nikola Jokic dominated the court with 35 points and 14 rebounds. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.